Hey everybody, I'm Justin with AmericanMuscle.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing a set of C&L Performance front brake calipers here in red, available for a wide variety of 2012 through 2020 Chargers. Now, for specific vehicle fitment, please reference the site to see if these do in fact fit your make and model Charger. Now, you should be checking out these options from C&L if your factory front calipers are just giving you issues. Maybe they're seized up or just generally have seen better days, and you're looking for an affordable replacement that will have some nice perks over just your standard parts store replacements. Now, talking features here with the C&L options, and the short and sweet way to really sum up these calipers from C&L will be a slightly better than new factory caliper with that bright red powder coating to really help increase the appearance behind your wheels. Now, I can think of a few different reasons why these might be beneficial. One, maybe you've just been considering overhauling the braking system on your Charger, and rather than forking out the thousands of dollars for an aftermarket big brake kit from Brembo, Wilwood, or Behr, maybe you'd prefer to piece together your own kit, your own components, to help save a few bucks at the end of the day. Now, if that is the case, then adding something like the C&L calipers to an additional set of C&L drilled and slotted rotors, add in your favorite set of pads, and boom, there you go. A great way to achieve a big time upgrade over your stock components in both looks and performance, but at the same time without breaking the bank. Now, I will say, guys, at the end of the day, if you do want to kind of compare and contrast some of our other options, including brake systems from C&L, Power Stop, and some of those big brake options we talked about, definitely check out some of our other choices here in the category, as we do have basically a different option for every budget out there. Now, moving into our construction segment, I do want to point out that these are in fact a remanufactured or reman factory Dodge caliper. And what I mean by that is these do start off life as a factory Charger caliper, and then from there are sent out, disassembled, refreshed, and even upgraded to make sure everything is on the up and up. For instance, these calipers do receive brand new seals, brand new pistons, boots, hardware, you name it, these things are completely good to go with 100% brand new components. And then of course, we can't forget about that bright red powder coat that really does help these stand apart from some of your parts store replacements we talked about earlier. Finally, guys, just to ensure everything is good to go right out of the box, the C&L calipers are each pressure tested first before shipping, just to ensure there is a trouble-free installation and operation. Now, price point for the pair of front calipers will hover just north of that $200 mark here from C&L. Certainly going to make these just a little bit more expensive than your generic parts store options we talked about earlier. Typically, depending on your area or your store, you can find those for around 60 to 80 bucks a side. So factor in that added powder coating here with the C&L options, and that's where your slight difference will come into play. Moving into our installation portion, and the site's going to call this a middle of the road 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and about 3 hours or so to complete from start to finish, as there is a little bit of work to remove and install the calipers themselves, and then lastly factoring in the bleeding of the system. So with that being said, not a bad idea to have a fresh bottle of DOT3 on hand before getting started. But now, if you are going to tackle this one on your own, to give you a better idea of just how this one might go down at home, feel free to check out our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, a caliper hanger, hose pliers, 10 and 18 millimeter wrenches, an extension, 13 and 21 millimeter swivel sockets, and 10 and 13 millimeter sockets. What's up, guys? Today we're installing brake calipers on our Charger, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is take a pair of hose clamps to pinch off our brake line. And then I'm going to grab a 10 millimeter socket to remove the bolt holding in our brake line bracket so we can get a little more slack on our line. And now with that taken care of, I'm going to loosen up this bottom bolt on a clamshell so that we can lift this up and remove our 2 pads. So I'm taking a 13 millimeter socket and an 18 millimeter wrench to remove this bolt. So now with that bolt removed, we can open up our clamshell. and wiggle our pads out of place. And I'm going to throw this bolt back in and just thread that in a couple threads. And then before we remove our caliper, I'm going to crack our banjo bolt on our brake line. That way it's a little bit easier once we take our caliper off. So I'm just going to grab a 13mm socket and just crack that loose. So now we're ready to remove our 2 caliper mounting bolts. So I'm going to grab a caliper hanger so we don't put any tension on our brake line. I'll just hook that onto the spring of our strut. And then we can take a 21mm socket to remove those 2 bolts. And then before you remove the second one, just get a hand on your caliper to support it. And then you can pull off your caliper and get it onto your caliper hook. So now we can install our new caliper. We're going to slide this into place and line up our bolt holes. Next, we can take a 21mm socket and tighten down our 2 bolts. So now we can swap over our brake line from our old caliper to our new one. So we'll take that 13mm socket, fully remove our bolt, and then we have a new bolt that's going to be going into our brake line for our new caliper. So I've already got my crush washer on one side ready to go. And now we can remove this the rest of the way. I've also got a drain pan here to catch all the brake fluid that's going to come out of here. So now I'm going to take our new bolt and put that through the bottom there. I've got the crush washer on the one side already. I'll put the other crush washer on the other side. And then we can raise this up and start threading this into our new caliper. And once we have that threaded in, we'll switch to a 10mm socket for our new bolt and tighten that down. So now we can install our hardware as well as our pads. So I'm going to loosen up this bolt here so that we can fold our clamshell down. So it's going to be that same 18mm wrench and 13mm socket as before. Fold this down. We still have some slack on our brake line, and we can install our hardware. So now we're going to install our brackets. You can also do this on your calipers before you mount them if you would like. We'll slide these into place. And then you can do that same thing on the bottom. Next, we can take some brake lube and lube up our contact points with our pad. You just want to be careful not to get this on the rotor. Next, we can reinstall our pads. Now, if you look at the back on this one, you can see the 2 circles for the pistons. So this was our rear pad. So we'll slide this one in from the back. And then we can do that same thing on our front pad. Pinch our pads together. Close up our caliper, thread our bolt back into place, and then we'll grab that 13mm socket and 18mm wrench, tighten that down. And now with that fully assembled, we can release tension on our brake line, pop our hose clamp off. And now the last thing we need to do is reinstall our brake line bracket. So we'll get that bolt, line it up and thread it in. And we'll grab our 10 mil socket to tighten it down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to bleed our brakes. Now you're gonna wanna start with the farthest away from the master cylinder. So in this case, it's gonna be your passenger rear, passenger front, and then driver front. Now I've already done the 2 rears, so we're over here at the passenger front. I've got a homemade brake bleeder here. I've got a water bottle, drilled a hole through the top to put a tube. I've got some clean brake fluid in the bottom here so that we don't suck any air back into the caliper while we're bleeding. I've also got a vent hole drilled out into the cap so that we don't build up pressure inside the bottle. Now we're gonna use a 2-person method. I'm gonna be here cracking open the bleeder valve while my buddy's in the driver's seat hitting the brakes. So now I've got my buddy in the driver's seat, so I can go ahead and pop that cap off of the bleeder. And then I'm gonna put a 10 millimeter wrench on there, and then I'll put my hose on the edge. And now I can have my buddy stand on the brakes. He's gonna hold it while I crack open the bleeder valve. And then once I close the valve, he can get off the brakes. Now, we have some air bubbles in our fluid, so we're gonna keep repeating this process until we have a steady stream. Press the brakes, press the brakes. And now we have a steady stream of fluid there, so you can close the bleeder. And then remove the hose. And then just make sure you fully tighten down the bleeder. And then you can put that cap back on. Now at this point, you're gonna wanna check your master cylinder, make sure you still have a good amount of brake fluid in there because you don't wanna run that dry. If not, top it off with some .3, and then you can go, continue on, and bleed the next caliper. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the C&L Performance Series front brake calipers in red for your 2012 to 14 Charger Pursuit, 12 to 20 Charger all-wheel drive SXT, Daytona, GT, and RT with dual piston front calipers, 12 to 13 5.7 liter Hemi Charger SE, 13 to 17 all-wheel drive Charger SE with dual piston front calipers. Thank you for watching, and for all things Charger, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.